Defense, the Honorable Minister of State for Defense, Veteran Affairs, the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Defense and Veteran Affairs, Chief of Defense Forces, Joint Chief of Staff, Commander Land Forces, Commander Air Force, Commander SFC, Chiefs and Directors, Commanders of Specialized Units and Training Institutions, other senior UPDF command and staff, dignitaries, fellow retiring generals and our families, ladies and gentlemen. Your Excellency, before I make my remarks on our retirement, allow me, on behalf of my colleagues and our families, to congratulate you and the First Lady on reaching your Golden Jubilee anniversary of marriage. There is no doubt that your outstanding achievements over the decades of this period and the remarkable contributions you continue to make for Uganda and Africa are indelible and for sure shall be immortalized in the annals of human history. There is no question that you, sir, and the First Lady have many more glorious years ahead of you. Happy Golden Jubilee anniversary, sir. Let me also use this opportunity to express deep personal gratitude and that of my family to you, Your Excellency, to the General Court Martial and other UPDF authorities, but above all, thank God that at long last I have got justice and freedom. It was not easy, but it is now completely behind us. I'm the happiest human being on earth at this moment. I would, however, be remiss if I don't mention with appreciation the support I regularly got from the UPDF leadership during this period on your authorization. Thank you very much, sir. Your Excellency, turning to our retirement, I'm honored, privileged, and very happy again that I was chosen and given this opportunity in your presence to speak on behalf of my colleagues at this historic milestone in our lives as we transition from active military service to retirement. But before I go further, let me thank you again on behalf of my colleagues for this very, very colorful, dignified send-off ceremony and the generous gifts befitting, I believe, befitting generals. This is really incredible and a big surprise to some of us. We thank the organizing committee, excellent organizing committee, for putting all this together. Undoubtedly, sir, as you obviously must know, we have mixed feelings, having been part of and served for a very long time in the heroic NRA/UPDF, contributing at different times and in various locations in modest and varied ways to the struggle that changed the course of history of our country and the Great Lakes region and beyond. Therefore, as we leave the force, there is a deep feeling of nostalgia as NRA UPDF had become our family, especially with the old soldiers like me and the Lieutenant General Waswa, who were part of it all from the very beginning. It should also be understandable that we have phobias and uncertainties as we step into the unknown, although the Jacobs the other day tried to be a political commissar and reassure us that all will be well. As we contemplate with trepidation what awaits us. Since for most of our active and adult lives, we have known nothing else but service in the military and security. However, we are consoled and we thank God that unlike the time we joined, which I believe some of us who are old enough could remember, was a time of duka duka. Others even leaving the country. At least we don't have to have that fear, because today the country is stable, is secure, and is peaceful and full of opportunities. So as we have these natural reactions, let's also see the reality that we are entering into. In any case, we can't serve forever. We recognize that, like any other healthy organism, the UPDF must continuously renew and reinvent itself if it is to survive, grow, and develop. That is, it must build the capacity and the capabilities essential to effectively operate in a contemporary world full of ever-evolving military and security threats that are increasing both in sophistication and scale. This renewal and reinvention of the UPDF, therefore, must necessarily and inevitably involve the old giving way to the young. We must go, Comrade Watson. And the mantle of leadership passing to the new, the fresh, the energetic, and the innovative, who can absorb and put to effective military use the rapid advances in science and technology, especially in the area of artificial intelligence, AI, infotech, and biotech, as we are seeing in this Ukraine and the Russia war, where the drones are playing a very critical role. Some of us, me and General Wasso, I don't think really we know much about drones. I even had a difficulty learning how to use the SMS on this small kibiriti until my children taught me how to use it. As we leave active service, let me also take this opportunity to congratulate my colleagues for your respective honorable service to the UPDF and the country, and for being recognized and honored as such by our Commander-in-Chief. I wish you all well, comrades, as we embark on the next stage, the next phase of our lives. Similarly, let me at the same time pay heartfelt tribute and salute our respective families, including close friends, for your patient and unwavering understanding and support throughout the course of our service, particularly when things got really tough. As you know, a life of a soldier is a life of a nomad, hardly at home. Yet, you stuck with us. You did not leave or abandon us. You stayed. Indeed, without your solid, often unquestioning presence, it would have been quite difficult for us to work, let alone achieve anything worthwhile in our lives. We thank you, our families, wholeheartedly. We salute the successive leaderships of the NRA/UPDF under the close strategic and often tactical guidance and participation of you, sir, the Commander-in-Chief. Under your stewardship, the NRA/UPDF has, in a few decades, transformed from a small guerrilla force in the jungles of Royal Triangle to a formidable force possessed of impressive capabilities, characteristic of any modern military anywhere else in the world. Inevitably, on this long journey, sadly many great comrades failed, paying the ultimate price. And we and the country owe them eternal gratitude. May the good Lord keep their great souls in eternal peace. In the course of our respective deployments, we lived and worked with many colleagues. Once again, let me take this opportunity on behalf of the retiring generals and thank and salute all the comrades with whom we served. As we leave, sir, we are particularly impressed that the UPDF continues to be respected and trusted by the people of Uganda, Africa, and beyond, not to mention the invariable contributions and sacrifices that our soldiers continue to make in different countries, especially in defense of our African homeland. We also congratulate you, sir, and the UPDF leadership, as well as the Minister of Defense leadership, for impressive strides being made in addressing such issues as the welfare of soldiers, especially in healthcare and housing. In a special way, Your Excellency, we are and shall be eternally grateful to you for giving us the opportunity to serve and contribute to the struggle that not only saved the country from being a failed state in 1985, reversing the negative destructive course from 1966 where we were headed. And since 1986, you have been directing the country onto a solid and progressive path up to today. No doubt, driven by a revolutionary vision and zeal of establishing a secure, stable, and prosperous future for our people, not only in Uganda, but in Africa as well. In particular, we thank you for being an inspiration to generations of Ugandans from your early student days to date. You inspired many young people from different spheres of life, including ourselves, when you initiated resistance movements, namely for NASA and the NRA/NRM in the 70s and the 80s, against decades of state terrorism, fascism, and chaos that our country had sunk into. Many times, people forget this. Notably, your efforts and the success of our resistance struggle. I'm very, very proud to be called a resistance officer. Thank you very much, the UPDF leadership. Notably, let me repeat, notably your efforts and the success of our resistance struggle inspired similar revolutionary movements in the region and beyond. As our President and Commander-in-Chief, you have relentlessly, continuously, consistently, and scientifically dissected and diagonized the problems and challenges facing Uganda and Africa and showed us the way. Recently, it was refreshing and inspiring when I watched on TV and listened to your speeches, sir, during the Africa-Russia Summit and earlier during your last visit to South Africa. I'm sure others were equally inspired. When we joined the struggle, long time ago, as you must have heard, we were angry young men and women, rightly consumed by what Archbishop Tutu referred to in one of his writings as righteous anger. It was not just anger, it was righteous anger. That is justifiable anger, even in the eyes of God. When in 1983, I, among others, reached the bush as a young recruit, I found an interesting but correct description of, I think, our condition. It was in Kiswahili. Wananchi, we called ourselves wananchi ambao walikasirika were not army men, were wananchi ambao walikasirika. That is civilians who got angry. And I really was attracted by that because indeed that's what we were. Remember, we had grown up at a time when civilians had no worth or value. To be a civilian was to be scorned, whether politically or otherwise. We were looked down upon, scorned, abused, and despised by army men of the regimes of that time. I remember an incident in 1976 during a student strike at Makerere, the Black Tuesday, sparked by the admission of one of the sons of Idi Amin to Makerere University, who had not even gone to primary. And he was given residence in a flat on top of Mitchell Hall, normally occupied by lecturers. This enraged the students. I remember the now late Vice President Mustafa Idrisi, then Commander of Military Police, addressing us after we had been headed to the Freedom Square and telling us, nyinyi, mnaweza mkapigana vita na karamu. Incidentally, little did he know that by that statement, as well as the brutality meted on us, I would go on into the story because there were some interesting things that happened in Rumumba Hall. He was actually mobilizing us to take up arms when an opportunity presented itself. Indeed, thanks to you, sir, a few years later, that I think would have been 79, 80, that opportunity presented itself, and we hungrily embraced it. We pay tribute to you, sir, because to many of us, still in our youthful years, your inspiration was life-changing. I can't forget an event in 1979. After you, the Bakombozi, as we called you, the liberators from Tanzania, captured Kampala, and you visited Makerere and addressed us, that is students, staff, and others, in the main hall. The hall was overflowing. The image has never left me of you in a camouflage uniform, walking towards the stage, flanked by your escorts, while what we came to later learn was a Furnasa choir entertaining us at the stage as we waited for your arrival, singing exciting songs that we later learned were revolutionary songs. I remember Honorable Amo Mambabazi wearing a creamy Kaunda suit, walking behind you. It's as if it is a film. It's still in my mind. You then went on to give us a fascinating lecture, I think, on the political history, not only of Uganda, but covering the region as well. History stroke military history. It was all new and refreshing and exciting and uplifting to us who were listening to you. What particularly left an indelible mark on us was seeing an accomplished intellectual in a military uniform delivering a lecture to university students that was so remarkable, full of new knowledge, and especially a fresh and profound interpretation of our history that we had never had before. Remember, our generation had grown up at a time when a military uniform symbolized primitive brutality, mediocrity, failure. They would always say that whoever had failed anywhere else would go, their place was the army. And uncouthness, among others. The army was then dominated by such mad characters as the Maria Mungus, the Kill Me Quick, the Butabikad, to mention but a few. So, we students, seeing and hearing you in military uniform, speaking as you did that day, was to us indeed unbelievable. It was almost a miracle. Because the language of the soldiers was completely, you could not imagine an intellectual in uniform. More important, it was life-changing. Indeed, the event left deep and long-lasting impression on many of us, and was to determine the life choices and the path that many of our lives eventually took. Incidentally, this was at a time when those of us in student leadership at the university indignant at the injustices and indignities that the country was going through. We're looking for a way out. I remember that time, now Justice Butera, our Deputy Chief Justice, then Speaker of Lumumba Hall, had narrowly escaped death and fled to Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. For us, after our exams in 1978, I was in the Faculty of Law, and as the war against Amin raged, now Honorable Major General Jim Mwezi, Comrade Jim, myself, the late Major Dr. Peter Bayingana, who died in the RPF war after joining the Bush and serving in NRA, the late Kaviji from Rukunjiri, and another comrade, I think Kabazire, who was murdered by the UNLA with our hero, the late Sam Katabarwa. We mobilized ourselves and approached the Cuban embassy looking for military training because we didn't see another way out. But then soon you arrived, and it was then no longer necessary. In 1979, while as students at the Law Development Center, Comrade Jim, then our classmate, who had important links in the UNF government, we were told, with especially the late Paulo Mwang, informed us that there was a program of recruitment of police cadets and that they particularly needed lawyers. I, along with others, were enthusiastic and registered. From our class, this included now General David Tinyefuza, Karugaba, who later became Director CID, and another Mulindwa, who I don't know what happened to him. Others from other faculties included Odomel and Chisembo, who later, under NRM, became IGPs. However, strangely, when the list came out, I'm not complaining, I'm just stating history. However, strangely, when the list came out, I was the only one among the group that was left out. Naturally, I was deeply disappointed. I wondered why I had been left out, since no testing or exams were conducted to determine suitability. To date, I keep wondering what went wrong, but I have never bothered Comrade Jim for an explanation, because I sought other alternatives, having decided perhaps that it was not my calling. Subsequently, however, the chaos that engulfed the country strengthened our resolve and gave us another opportunity. So, when you declared war in 1981, sir, it was only natural that many of us joined the struggle. I will forever, I'm sorry I'm mentioning these details because this is the only opportunity I think I will ever have. I will forever be grateful to my comrade, the late Ambassador Benny Matogo, who in 1981 introduced me to Mzee Matthew Chikeire, then chairman of the NRM External Committee, who was visiting London at the time. He interviewed me in a cafe at Cumberland Hotel, London, and I'm sure was satisfied because he really saw my anger. I still had my anger. Because I was later told that he recommended me to you, sir, as we were passing through London on your way from and to the bush. Later, in May 1982, after my graduate studies, I joined other comrades, and we embarked on our long journey to the bush. This included Honorable Tom Butime and Honorable Mushega. There are many others alive and others dead. Actually, at least I know Major General Ruashand is here. He can bear witness to our journey, which was not easy. Today marks about 41 years since that day for me. I thank God and I thank you, sir, for the opportunity and the privilege to serve when our country needed us. I must apologize to my colleagues that I have dwelt at length on my own story. I know you have individually richer, more interesting and heroic experiences which you would have recounted had you had the chance. I'm sure one day you will. But I have narrated all these anecdotes to illustrate the historical impact, which I think you may not even realize, is that your inspirational leadership has had at the time and continues to have. And for that, we pay tribute to you, sir. And I'm not saying this really for anything. I'm just stating what I know is factual. We further thank you, sir, for entrusting us at different times with different assignments within and outside the force. For me personally, I have every reason to be grateful to you for all the trust, honor you put in me and the opportunities you exposed me to. Thankfully, we never spared ourselves at executing whatever responsibilities you gave us, challenges notwithstanding. Indeed, we are proud that we gave it our all. We gave it our best shot to the extent that we could. Whatever may be said about the service record of any of us, the famous words in a speech of a great American leader, Theodore Roosevelt, delivered in 1910 at the Sorbonne in Paris, is our answer. The theme of the speech was "The Man in the Arena." I quote, "It is not the critic who counts. It is not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who makes mistakes, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, who actually strives to do the deed, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause." I will repeat that one. Who spends himself in a worthy cause, and who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. So, comrades, as we retire, we should be proud, for indeed we are the man in the arena. For without a doubt, we spent ourselves serving a worthy cause, and our place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. The great Caribbean Algerian revolutionary, Dr. Franz Fanon, wrote, and I quote, "Each generation must discover its mission, fulfill it or betray it." Equally, as we retire, I want to believe we have reason to be proud that by choosing the patriotic path and joining the struggle in the jungles of the Renewal Triangle, and later in government, fighting all sorts of insurgencies in the different parts of the country, as well as fighting local and international terrorism, not to mention contributing in other ways to the building of a secure and stable state. We, in fact, by that choice, that patriotic choice, discovered the historical mission of our generation and made modest contribution to its fulfillment. Certainly, we did not betray it. So we should hold our heads high. Yes, our time is up, and we must accept that. But make no mistake, as we recede into the background, we are not disappearing into oblivion, because we believe we still have the energy, the drive, the will, and the dedication to still be useful to the struggle if called upon. Moreover, as General MacArthur in his farewell address to the US Congress said, quoting a popular military song or ballad of that time, and I quote, "Old soldiers do not die, they just fade away." It may sound delusional, because of course we shall die, and he, General MacArthur, actually died. I'm sure he meant something else. For me, other people could have interpreted it, I don't know. I haven't found any interpretation of it. For me, I think what he must have meant, and which I agree with, is this: that when the cause is right, the strategy is right, and the leadership is right, that cause for which an old soldier dedicates the best years of his or her life endures. And in that sense, therefore, he or she lives on. Similarly, and in that sense, I think I'm closer to the Barokoli, because the Barokoli don't believe that we actually completely die, or go away. I believe all the comrades who gave their lives for the country are seated beside God, Jesus and God. Similarly, but this is not, I don't think General MacArthur was a Moroccan. I think he was talking as an accomplished general. Similarly, because I believe our revolutionary cause, that's the struggle of transformation of the conditions in our country, especially improvement of the quality of life of our people, a cause to which we dedicated our useful and best years of our lives. And as we have faith in the continued revolutionary leadership of our country, that revolutionary cause shall endure. And our patriotic spirit shall live on, even as we, old soldiers, fade away. We therefore call upon the young commanders and leaders of the UPDF to keep on the fight, building creatively and innovatively on, and not betraying the heroic legacy of the NRA UPDF, avoiding to retreat from the invariable bridgeheads that we have achieved in our struggle, especially the revolutionary achievements of the People's War, while of course not neglecting to draw lessons learned from what we failed to achieve. We implore you to continue to heed the advice of the Commander-in-Chief and utilize the time-tested NRA ideology and revolutionary methods of work, especially strengthening political education and ideological work, making them the centerpiece and bedrock of building and modernizing the UPDF, as well as, of course, contributing to the development and transformation of the country. Remember Muze's booklet, The Value of Political Education, written in 1989, and the quote, which I quote, "Some people work out of conviction and not for personal gain." And I think that this should be the mantra of the UPDF that we are leaving behind. In particular, you should know that life is not a zero-sum game, where for one to rise, another must fall. That for one to win, another must lose. We can actually all be winners, comrades. Finally, let me leave you with the words of the great revolutionary leader of Mozambique, the great African hero and Pan-Africanist, the late President Samuel Machel. He said, "A soldier without political education is a mercenary." We implore you, comrade generals, to ensure that the UPDF soldier remains a patriot, conscious of and working out of conviction of the correctness of our cause for which he or she is fighting and for which many lost their lives. Inspired and driven by patriotism, that is love for our country, our people, and our African homeland, as well as our African brothers and sisters. We wish you well. We have no doubt you'll provide the necessary leadership, comrade commanders, as you lead the UPDF and our country to great heights under the leadership of our President, our legend, our Commander-in-Chief. A luta continua. The future is bright. I thank you, Your Excellency.